What is the most important scene in Shrek? Is it the opening montage to All-Star? Or the scene with the famous line, "Ogres are like onions, they have layers"? Nope, it's none of these. Shrek's most important scene is when he meets Donkey. The relationship is the basis for almost every comedic moment, memorable line, and most notably, the film's emotional core. So, their first scene together sets the groundwork for a connection with the audience. In fact, the entire film's success might just depend on it. So, imagine being the team of animators responsible for it. Where do you even begin to accomplish such a task? Well, there's 12 core principles of animations that are the answer to creating convincing character acting, specifically the technique to mimic natural weight, gravity, and mass as seen in movement in the real world. They were made well known by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson in 1981. And it wasn't long before these fundamentals were applied to the first three-dimensional animations. Several techniques are used long before any keyframes are set. Appeal and solid drawing, or in this case, solid 3D modeling and texturing, developed amidst the storyboarding and scene blocking. At this stage, 3D animators have an approved, appealing character to work with. Their design embodies their personality and have recognizable silhouettes. Pixar creative chief and animator John Lasseter has stated, "A weak drawing or design that is complicated or hard to read and has clumsy shapes lack appeal. Shrek is tall, bulbous, and green." There's an impressive simplicity to his ogre design. On the other hand, Donkey has a giant mouth. You can tell he's annoying. Now the characters are staged. Staging is presenting an idea thoughtfully so the audience's eye can be led to exactly where it needs to be. For this scene, its goal is to establish the foundation of Shrek and Donkey's relationship through physical comedy and dialogue, so this aspect must be unmistakably clear to the audience. Therefore, Shrek and Donkey walk through the forest in one continuous direction. The characters' performances become the focus. Animators take this a step further by reflecting their personalities in their motion. For this scene, it was crucial to depict them as opposing figures. Determining their timing was the key to this. Timing reflects the weight and size of an object, and can even carry emotional meaning. Lasseter has explained this concept as, the heavier an object is, the greater its mass, and the more force is required to change its motion. Notice their walk cycles. While Shrek swings his stiff, bulky frame with each high arcing stomp, Donkey is low to the ground, darting and scurrying around him. His head is magnetized to Shrek for attention, with the rest of his body trying its best to catch up. Donkey's movements are more similar to a cat than a donkey. Shrek's adamant march is constantly interrupted by Donkey, being startled and off balance in the same manner as a cat running between your legs. These parallels were purposefully chosen. To turn his body around, Shrek makes these sweeping dramatic arcs. In animation, an arc is the most economical route by which a form can move from one position to another. You can't have these smooth motions by using straight, rigid paths of action. There's a sense to the weight of his stomach as its momentum lurches forward afterward. These secondary actions heighten interest and add a realistic complexity to the animation. These moments are all intricately planned with pose-to-pose action. By using the storyboard as a guide for posing the characters, animators set sequences of extremes and in-betweens to create a fluid path of action. This means keyframing the most exaggerated poses first, then going back and adjusting the necessary frames in between. Here, Shrek transitions from his walk cycle into a sequence of 8 poses while delivering just a single line of dialogue.
It's good to be free. Now, why don't you go celebrate your freedom with your own friends?
Creating this level of visual appeal and interest to the audience requires 5 animation techniques. First is squash and stretch, which is fundamental to animating natural change in volume or shape in organic objects like characters. Think of the well-known example of a ball bouncing. To perform this arcing motion, Shrek contracts, then expands, all while maintaining a constant volume. This concept goes hand in hand with the next technique, anticipation. Shrek takes a noticeably deeper step to slow his momentum, drooping his neck down and bending his elbow. This small pause builds energy for the next key pose, and the next one, and so on. To convey these changes of energy, Shrek's arm never moves at the same speed for too long. Look closely at his hand. Between the initial frames, it travels just this far. However, when swinging it up, it travels this far between frames, before finally slowing to its original speed. This technique is known as slow in and slow out, which allows us to see the impact of speed and weight on an object. Each of the various extremes utilize exaggeration. John Lasseter described this as movement with the sense of natural physics, yet almost every motion and action is exaggerated to accentuate it. In real life, nobody talks to each other in choreographed poses. However, animating these expressions and stylized movements create characterization, emotions, and cements objects into their environment. We can clearly see Shrek's anger, annoyance, and sarcastic body language. Lastly, the resulting termination of the emphasized motion creates follow-through. Not only does Shrek's other arm move in relation to his gesture, gesture, but his fingers, head, hips, and legs all move back into place. If they didn't, you'd notice the lapse in physics. Shrek is always in motion. His hand quickly droops to a similar pose, coordinated with the rest of his body. His head and hips dip forward, other arm swinging back in rhythm. This concept goes in tandem with follow-through, known as overlapping action. Keeping this continual flow and continuity between whole phases of action is what brings realism to even the smallest of movements. And so, this pattern of techniques are repeated and repeated. By recognizing this, you can appreciate how animators seamlessly blend them into character acting that not only obeys the laws of physics, but convincingly portrays the voice actor's performance. In this scene, you don't see a series of poses splined together. You see Shrek and Donkey, their differences, how they move, and how they react to each other, how they view the world, and how they're not too different after all.